Do you feel like something is missing emotionally, but you can't quite put your finger on it? In this video, we'll explore 4 Stoic signs that reveal emotional deprivation and offer practical steps rooted in Stoicism to address them. By the end, you'll understand how to restore balance and cultivate emotional strength through timeless Stoic wisdom. Stoicism places immense value on self-awareness and the role of inner dialogue in shaping our emotional landscape. The Stoics believed that our thoughts shape our reality, and by mastering our inner conversations, we can cultivate tranquility and virtue. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, frequently engaged with his inner voice, questioning his motives and examining his thoughts. This dialogue was not an exercise in self-criticism, but a tool for self-understanding and improvement. By acknowledging and guiding our inner dialogue, Stoicism teaches us to align our emotions with reason rather than letting them control us. Neglecting our inner voice can lead to a range of emotional issues. When we ignore our internal conversations, we risk feeling directionless, overwhelmed, or disconnected from our true selves. Without self-awareness, it becomes easy to fall into negative thought patterns, letting external circumstances dictate our emotional responses. For example, someone who constantly worries about what others think or who chases after external success might find themselves lost in a sea of anxiety, unable to ground themselves in their own values. The Stoic approach counters this by urging us to engage with our inner voice regularly and intentionally. One of the most obvious signs that you are neglecting your inner dialogue is a sense of feeling lost or directionless. When you don't take the time to listen to your thoughts, you can easily be swept away by external influences. This leads to a life lived in reaction rather than with purpose. Another sign of neglect is emotional overwhelm. If you find yourself frequently feeling anxious, irritable, or excessively emotional without understanding why, this indicates a disconnect from your inner voice. Emotions are often the result of thoughts, and without self-awareness, we cannot understand the root causes of these feelings. The Stoic practice of journaling provides a powerful method for reconnecting with your inner dialogue. By writing down your thoughts and reflections, you can create space to process your emotions and gain clarity. This exercise allows you to step back from your emotions, observe them from a place of detachment, and understand their underlying causes. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, used journaling to engage in an ongoing conversation with himself, challenging his assumptions and reaffirming his commitment to virtue. To begin journaling in a Stoic manner, set aside time each day for quiet reflection. Start by asking yourself key questions. What emotions did I experience today? Why did I feel that way? Did my actions align with my values? As you write, let your thoughts flow without judgment or censorship. The goal is not to criticize, but to understand. This practice helps you identify patterns in your thinking, recognize when you are veering off course, and reconnect with your true self. Another technique to cultivate self-awareness is through reflective practices, such as mindfulness meditation. In this practice, you sit quietly, observing your thoughts without attachment. Instead of judging your emotions or trying to suppress them, you simply notice them, allowing them to pass like clouds in the sky. This exercise trains the mind to separate from emotional reactions, enabling you to respond with reason rather than impulse. As you observe your thoughts without judgment, you begin to gain greater insight into the motivations driving your actions. Self-awareness through inner dialogue also involves confronting uncomfortable truths. Sometimes we avoid certain thoughts because they challenge our beliefs or expose our weaknesses. Stoicism teaches us to embrace these uncomfortable realizations as they are essential for growth. In fact, It's only through this process of self-examination that we can shed the false beliefs that keep us trapped in emotional turmoil. Real-life examples of individuals who improved their emotional clarity through self-awareness are abundant. One such example is the story of James Stockdale, a US Navy admiral and Vietnam War prisoner of war, who was able to endure unimaginable hardship by constantly reflecting on his inner state. He credited his survival to his Stoic practice, particularly to his ability to engage with his inner dialogue during his captivity. By focusing on what was within his control, his thoughts and reactions, Stockdale maintained emotional strength in the face of external adversity. Similarly, a modern example could be that of a successful entrepreneur who faced a series of personal and professional setbacks. By regularly engaging with his inner dialogue through journaling and self-reflection, he was able to process his emotions, adjust his mindset, and remain grounded. This emotional clarity allowed him to persevere through difficult times, leading to both personal growth and professional success. Through the practice of self-awareness and inner dialogue, we can develop emotional clarity, overcome negative thought patterns, and strengthen our resilience. Stoicism teaches us that our emotions do not control us. Instead, we can guide them through mindful reflection and self-examination. By listening to and understanding our inner voice, we can align our actions with reason and live a life of virtue, free from the turbulence of unchecked emotions. In Stoic philosophy, the concept of internal versus external validation is central to cultivating emotional resilience and lasting peace. The Stoics believed that true contentment comes not from the opinions or approval of others, but from aligning one's actions with virtue and reason. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reflected on the importance of self-reliance and inner strength, emphasizing that the approval of others is fleeting and ultimately unimportant in the pursuit of a tranquil life. By relying on internal validation, we build a foundation of emotional stability that is unaffected by the fluctuations of external praise or criticism. External validation, or the need for approval from others, can become a powerful force that depletes our emotional reserves. When we constantly seek validation, we place our worth in the hands of others, allowing their judgments to dictate how we feel about ourselves. This leads to an emotional roller coaster where our self-esteem rises and falls with each compliment or criticism. The Stoics, however, warned against this dependency, recognizing that seeking external approval is not only unreliable, but also a distraction from the cultivation of virtue. One of the key teachings of Stoicism is that we cannot control what others think or say about us, but we can control our reactions and judgments. By allowing external opinions to influence our emotional state, we give away our power. The Stoic goal is to develop an inner sense of contentment and assurance that remains steady regardless of what is happening in the external world. This doesn't mean rejecting feedback or advice. Rather, it means not allowing it to define us. We are not dependent on others' approval to affirm our value or worth. When we seek constant external validation, we deplete our emotional reserves. The effort to constantly win approval, whether through social media likes, compliments from colleagues, or praise from family and friends, is exhausting. It pulls us away from our true selves, leading us to mold our behavior and decisions around what others expect, rather than what we truly believe is right. This constant strain leads to emotional burnout and a sense of emptiness, as external validation can never provide the lasting fulfillment that comes from within. To shift from seeking external validation to cultivating self-assurance, Stoicism offers several practical strategies. First and foremost, the practice of self-reflection is essential. By regularly engaging in introspection, We can affirm our values, actions, and decisions independent of others' opinions. Journaling, as encouraged by Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, provides a structured space to check in with ourselves and assess whether we are living according to our own principles. Affirmations are another powerful tool for shifting towards self-assurance. These positive statements, when repeated regularly, help reinforce our sense of worth from within. A Stoic affirmation might sound like, "I am sufficient in myself," or "I do what is right because it aligns with my values, not because of others' approval." By internalizing these affirmations, we gradually replace the need for external validation with a more stable sense of self-confidence rooted in our own convictions. Mindfulness practices also play a crucial role in building self-assurance. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to observe our thoughts and reactions without being swayed by them. We become more aware of when we are seeking validation from others and can choose to redirect our focus toward our internal compass. Mindfulness helps us detach from the constant cycle of seeking approval and instead encourages us to be present with ourselves, recognizing that our worth is inherent, not contingent on external opinions. Real-life examples from Stoic philosophers provide valuable insight into how contentment can be found within oneself. Socrates, often considered the father of Stoicism, embodied this principle in his life. He famously declared, "The unexamined life is not worth living," pointing to the importance of self-awareness and self-examination in finding true fulfillment. Socrates lived according to his own principles, never seeking external validation for his ideas or lifestyle. His commitment to virtue, rather than popularity, allowed him to maintain his integrity even in the face of criticism and opposition. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, also exemplified this teaching. Despite his immense power and influence, he repeatedly reminded himself to focus on his own actions and thoughts, not on how others perceived him. In his meditations, he writes, "Don't waste time on what you can't control. Focus on what's within you, your mind, your actions, and your values." This steadfast commitment to internal validation helped him navigate the immense pressures of ruling an empire without losing sight of his Stoic ideals. A modern-day example of shifting from external to internal validation is the story of a successful entrepreneur who, after years of seeking approval from investors, colleagues, and customers, realized that his sense of self-worth was constantly tied to external outcomes. Through Stoic practices like journaling and affirmations, he began to shift his focus inward, affirming his value based on his integrity, efforts, and commitment to his values. As he began to prioritize internal validation, he found greater peace and resilience, no longer relying on the unpredictable approval of others. Shifting from external validation to self-assurance requires practice, patience, and self-awareness. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and values, we can cultivate a stable sense of self-worth that remains unaffected by the judgments of others. Through the wisdom of Stoic philosophy, we learn that true contentment is not found in external praise, but in aligning our lives with virtue and reason, independent of external validation. Stoicism places great emphasis on balance, not just in our thoughts and actions, but also in our emotional well-being. The Stoic philosophers understood that maintaining emotional health requires a delicate equilibrium between activity and rest, productivity and recovery. Emotional exhaustion, often caused by prolonged stress, overexertion, or emotional neglect, can significantly hinder our ability to live a virtuous life. Stoic principles remind us that just as our bodies need rest to function at their best, so too do our minds and emotions. By recognizing the need for emotional recovery and integrating restorative practices into our daily lives, we can foster long-term emotional resilience. One of the key Stoic teachings is that we must approach life with a sense of balance. The Stoics did not advocate for an unceasing drive toward productivity or self-sacrifice. Rather, they believed that maintaining harmony between work and rest is essential for our emotional and mental health. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often wrote about the importance of restoring oneself through moments of reflection and quiet. He recognized that even a ruler must step away from the demands of the empire to preserve his emotional and mental clarity. Thus, the Stoic approach calls for integrating rest into our routine, allowing for emotional rejuvenation. Signs of emotional exhaustion often begin subtly but can quickly escalate if ignored. One of the most common indicators is irritability. When emotionally depleted, we lose patience and are more likely to snap at others, even over small matters. Similarly, a sense of disinterest or lack of enthusiasm for activities we once enjoyed can be a warning sign of emotional burnout. This detachment from our passions, relationships, and daily responsibilities can lead to a sense of isolation and despair. When we neglect emotional recovery, we risk becoming disconnected from ourselves, unable to engage fully in life or connect with others. Detachment is another significant sign of emotional exhaustion. When overwhelmed, we may distance ourselves from people and situations that normally bring us joy or meaning. This withdrawal is often a protective mechanism to shield ourselves from further emotional strain, but over time, it can lead to a sense of emptiness and alienation. These signs, irritability, disinterest, and detachment, are signals that we are neglecting our emotional well-being and that it's time to take deliberate action to restore balance. Stoicism offers several practical solutions to counter emotional exhaustion and restore emotional health. One of the simplest yet most effective strategies is to build recovery time into your routine. Just as the Stoics were disciplined in their daily habits and practices, they also understood the importance of rest. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the necessity of taking time for self-reflection and recharging the mind. This could involve taking short breaks throughout the day, dedicating time for quiet contemplation, or even practicing mindfulness to detach from the busyness of daily life. Setting aside regular periods of rest allows us to recharge emotionally, ensuring that we can approach each task with clarity and purpose. Another powerful Stoic practice for emotional recovery is gratitude. While it may seem counterintuitive during times of exhaustion, practicing gratitude helps us shift our focus from what we lack to what we have. When emotionally drained, we can feel as though everything is overwhelming or unsatisfactory. Gratitude, however, encourages us to recognize the positive aspects of our lives, however small they may seem. This shift in focus can help alleviate feelings of frustration and anxiety, allowing us to regain perspective and restore emotional balance. For example, taking time each day to reflect on 3 things we are grateful for, no matter how trivial, can cultivate a sense of contentment and appreciation, helping to reduce emotional strain. Engaging in restorative activities is another important Stoic solution for emotional recovery. This includes activities that provide relaxation, joy, and emotional nourishment. Stoics believed that engaging in pleasurable and fulfilling activities is not a form of indulgence, but a necessary part of maintaining a balanced life. These activities might include spending time with loved ones, enjoying nature, reading, or pursuing creative hobbies. The key is to find activities that allow us to detach from stress and reconnect with what truly nourishes our spirit. By making space for these restorative practices, we create a rhythm of action and rest that promotes emotional well-being. The balance between action and rest mirrors Stoic teachings in profound ways. Stoicism is not about avoiding effort or work. Rather, it is about ensuring that our actions are purposeful and in alignment with our values. Similarly, rest and recovery are not about avoiding responsibility, but about ensuring that we can continue to act with clarity, wisdom, and resilience. The Stoics believed that everything in life should be approached with moderation, and this includes the balance between action and recovery. By practicing both disciplined effort and restorative rest, we create a sustainable rhythm that supports emotional health and allows us to remain focused on our virtuous goals. A modern example of applying this Stoic balance is seen in individuals who practice mindful work-life balance. For instance, a successful business leader might take time every evening to reflect on their day, acknowledge their achievements, and then engage in a calming activity such as reading or walking. This restorative period helps them detach from the pressures of work, ensuring that they return to their responsibilities the next day with renewed energy and clarity. By incorporating gratitude and restorative activities into their routine, they maintain emotional resilience and avoid burnout. Ultimately, neglecting emotional recovery leads to exhaustion, detachment, and a loss of connection to our values and purpose. Stoicism reminds us that balance is essential for emotional health. By incorporating regular rest, practicing gratitude, and engaging in activities that restore our energy, we can maintain the emotional strength needed to live a virtuous and fulfilling life. This balance between action and rest, productivity and recovery, is the foundation of emotional resilience and personal growth, enabling us to navigate life's challenges with clarity, focus, and purpose. In Stoic philosophy, relationships are not seen as distractions or burdens, but as vital elements to human flourishing. The Stoics, particularly figures like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, emphasize that humans are social creatures by nature, and our connections with others play an essential role in our emotional well-being and personal growth. At the same time, the Stoics believed that we must approach relationships with wisdom, practicing virtue and composure to avoid emotional entanglements that could disrupt our tranquility. This balanced approach to relationships can foster deep, meaningful connections while preserving inner peace. The Stoic view on relationships is grounded in the idea that our interactions with others should be aligned with virtue, reason, and our true nature. According to the Stoics, we are all part of a greater whole, and our relationships with others are opportunities to practice justice, kindness, and empathy. In this sense, Stoicism does not advocate for emotional detachment or avoidance of relationships, but rather for cultivating relationships that align with our highest values. True connection, according to the Stoics, is about mutual respect, understanding, and shared virtues. However, emotional isolation can arise when we neglect or avoid genuine connections with others. Signs of emotional isolation include difficulty trusting others, feeling disconnected, or withdrawing from social interactions altogether. This detachment can stem from fear of vulnerability, past emotional wounds, or the belief that one does not need others to thrive. The Stoics recognized that while it is essential to be self-sufficient and resilient, complete emotional isolation is not a healthy or virtuous state. Humans are interdependent, and we are meant to form bonds with others to help us grow and live a flourishing life. One of the primary signs of emotional isolation is difficulty trusting others. Trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship, and without it, connections remain superficial or non-existent. When we avoid trust, we prevent ourselves from experiencing the deep emotional intimacy that relationships can offer. This lack of trust may manifest as skepticism, emotional withdrawal, or a refusal to open up to others, ultimately leading to feelings of loneliness and disconnection. The Stoics, however, encouraged individuals to trust others based on virtue and reason, not on fleeting emotions or expectations. In Stoic thought, trust should not be blind, but rooted in wisdom and a commitment to fairness and justice. Another sign of emotional isolation is the difficulty in maintaining relationships. This may show up as a lack of effort in nurturing friendships, family connections, or romantic partnerships. We may begin to distance ourselves, convinced that relationships are too demanding or that we can thrive independently. However, Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment and growth often come from our relationships with others. By nurturing these connections, we can practice virtues like patience, empathy, and understanding, which in turn strengthens our emotional resilience. To build meaningful connections while maintaining Stoic composure, it is important to recognize that relationships require effort, but that effort should not come at the expense of our emotional balance. Stoics believed in practicing apatheia, a state of inner calm and detachment from excessive emotional turbulence. This does not mean suppressing emotions or avoiding connection, but rather maintaining a steady, rational approach to relationships. By cultivating composure, we can engage with others authentically without becoming overwhelmed by emotions or external circumstances. One practical Stoic approach to building meaningful connections is to practice empathy. Empathy allows us to understand the feelings and perspectives of others without losing ourselves in their emotions. By listening actively and without judgment, we create space for deeper connection. Seneca, in his letters, emphasized the importance of understanding others' suffering, saying, "We are all in the same boat, and the stronger we become, the better we can support each other." Empathy allows us to offer genuine care and support while still maintaining a sense of inner peace and composure. Active listening is another key Stoic practice for fostering meaningful relationships. Listening attentively and with intention creates an atmosphere of respect and understanding, which strengthens our connections with others. When we listen, we show others that their thoughts and feelings are valued, which encourages open communication and trust. Stoics like Epictetus believed that the key to understanding others was not through constant speaking or asserting our own views, but through carefully listening to what others had to say. By practicing active listening, we can cultivate more genuine, compassionate relationships grounded in mutual respect and understanding. An example from Stoic philosophy can be found in the relationship between Marcus Aurelius and his close advisor Seneca. Despite the distance created by their positions, Marcus as emperor and Seneca as a statesman, they maintained a deep and meaningful friendship grounded in Stoic principles. Both understood that relationships, even in positions of power, must be nurtured with empathy, active listening, and mutual respect. Their letters and writings reflect their ability to connect emotionally and intellectually, while still adhering to Stoic values of self-discipline and composure. A modern-day example of applying Stoic principles to relationships can be seen in someone who, after a difficult breakup, chooses to engage in self-reflection and cultivate empathy toward their former partner. Rather than resorting to bitterness or anger, they reflect on the lessons learned and practice understanding and forgiveness. This Stoic approach helps them maintain emotional balance, allowing for healing while preserving their ability to build new, meaningful connections in the future. Stoicism teaches that genuine connections are an essential part of human flourishing, but they require effort, empathy, and a steady, composed approach. By practicing empathy, active listening, and maintaining emotional balance, we can build relationships that are not only fulfilling, but also aligned with our highest values. True connection, according to the Stoics, is about mutual respect and understanding. and by cultivating these virtues, we can overcome emotional isolation and foster deeper, more meaningful bonds with others. By addressing these 4 signs, you'll rediscover your emotional strength and balance. Embrace these Stoic principles today and reclaim your emotional vitality. Remember, emotional deprivation isn't a weakness. It's a call to reconnect with your inner self through Stoic wisdom. Let this journey towards emotional clarity guide you to a life of peace, resilience, and true flourishing.